You were told the Enlightenment happened in books. Locke, Rousseau, Voltaire, great men writing great ideas in solitude. That's not how it happened. The Enlightenment happened in living rooms, around card tables, over tea and pastries, in gatherings called salons, where nobles sat next to poets, where philosophers debated merchants, where women set the guest list and decided who got a seat. No parliament, no university, no church. Just a room, a question, and people willing to follow it wherever it led. And in those rooms, over decades of conversation, they built something that had never existed before. The idea that a person, any person, has rights that no king, no church, no institution can take away. Not because they read it in a book, because they talked their way there. This is Know the Play, Run Yours, Episode 6, The Room Where Rights Were Born. I'm Miss Peck. The Salon wasn't a lecture, it wasn't a party, it was a weekly gathering, usually in the home of a woman with money, taste, and a very specific talent. She knew who needed to meet whom. The most famous was the Salon of Madame Geoffrin. Every Monday and Wednesday, artists and writers. Every Tuesday, philosophers, including the men whose names you know from textbooks, Diderot, D'Alembert, Montesquieu. She didn't lecture, she didn't publish, she curated the conversation. Here's what made it radical. In the Salon, rank didn't matter. A watchmaker could debate a duke. A poet could challenge a bishop. The only credentials were wit, knowledge, and the ability to hold your ground without reaching for your sword, or your status. This was not how things worked anywhere else in 18th century France. Outside the Salon, the king decided what was true. The church decided what was moral. The aristocracy decided who mattered. You were born into your place, and you died in it. Questioning any of it was dangerous, literally dangerous. The Bastille was real. But inside the Salon, every Wednesday, the rules were suspended. For a few hours, arguments won on merit. Status checked at the door. Ideas fought each other, not people. Over time, something remarkable happened. The conversations started to harden into concepts. Natural rights, the social contract, the consent of the governed. These weren't abstract philosophy. They were the accumulated product of thousands of hours of people saying, "Wait, if that's true, then why?" The Salon was a lab. The experiment was freedom. And the results rewrote the world. Game film, red pen. The Salon wasn't anti-royalist propaganda. It was a process. And the process itself was the revolution, before a single brick was thrown. Step 1. The room. The first thing the Salon did was create a space that didn't exist anywhere else. No throne, no altar, just a circle of chairs. The architecture mattered. In church, you face forward. In court, you face the king. In the Salon, you face each other. That's not decoration, that's a statement. Here, no one is above anyone else. Step 2. The rules. The salons ran on what they called politesse, a code of conduct that kept debate from becoming violence. No insults, no appeals to rank. You could tear an argument apart, but you couldn't attack the person making it. If you got emotional, you lost. If you leaned on your title, you weren't invited back. This was revolutionary. The king ruled by force and birthright. The Salon was governed by reason and consent. The medium was the message. A society could function without a throne. Step 3. The ripple. The ideas developed in salons didn't stay in salons. They leaked. The Encyclopédie, Diderot's massive compendium of human knowledge, banned by the church, was conceived and organized through salon networks. Pamphlets, letters, coffee houses. The conversation spread. By the time the American colonists wrote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident," they were quoting ideas that had been workshopped in Parisian living rooms for 2 generations. By the time the French Revolution erupted in 1789, the intellectual architecture was already built. The streets overthrew the king, but the salons had already overthrown the idea of kings. Here's where the teacher gets direct. When I look at the Salon model in 1750, and I look at what we're doing Tuesday nights on the MAGA Exit Countdown, I see the same architecture. The room. We built one. The wayfinding station isn't a lecture hall. It's a circle. You face each other. No throne, no altar, just people who decided the old room wasn't big enough for their questions. The rules. The Salon had politesse. We have the compass. No shaming, no labels. You don't have to be right, you have to be honest. You can tear apart a bad argument, but you can't tear apart the person making it. We check titles at the door. MAGA, never Trump. Ex-Democrat, ex-Republican, politically homeless. The only credential is that you're willing to think out loud. The ripple. The Salon didn't stay in the salon. The ideas built there became declarations, constitutions, rights. What's building in our room Tuesday nights? What happens when dozens of people, then hundreds, then thousands, start hosting their own salons? History says, everything changes. The Enlightenment didn't start with a king's decree. It started with a seat at a table where questions were welcome. The MAGA exit isn't just about leaving something, it's about entering something, a room where you get to think for yourself, out loud, without shame. The Salon didn't require genius. It required a host, a room, and the nerve to invite people who might disagree with each other, and trust the process. You have all three. Hero Thinking Booster. Host your own salon. 3 tools from 18th century Paris that work in 2026. 1. Choose your guests like Madame Geoffrin. Geoffrin didn't invite everyone. She invited people who thought differently but could handle it. She mixed ranks, the poet and the duke, the philosopher and the merchant. The friction was the point. Echo chambers don't produce rights, they produce slogans. Who's at your table? Not just the people who already agree with you, the ones who don't, but can handle the heat without burning the house down. That's your guest list. 2. Enforce the rules. The Salon had politesse. The MAGA Exit Countdown has the compass diagnostic, but every salon needs its own code. Here's a starter. No insults. No appeals to authority. Stay until you understand, not until you agree. Post it. Say it out loud at the start. The rules make the room safe enough for dangerous ideas. 3. Make it weekly. The Salon wasn't an event, it was a rhythm. Geoffrin's Tuesday dinners ran for decades. The power wasn't in any single conversation, it was in the accumulation. One Tuesday, you're debating theology. The next Tuesday, natural rights. By the 100th Tuesday, you've built a worldview together that none of you could have built alone. The MAGA Exit Countdown runs every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. That's your salon. Show up. Bring your questions. Bring someone who's still stuck. The watch party isn't passive entertainment. It's the modern salon. A room full of people watching the same thing, then talking about it. That's how democracy ignites. Not from a speech, from a room. Here is the exit. The French salons didn't plan a revolution. They planned Tuesday dinner. They invited interesting people. They asked hard questions and listened to the answers. And over time, decades, they built the intellectual foundation for rights that now feel like oxygen. You don't need a throne to change the world. You need a room, a rhythm, and the courage to fill it with people who might not agree with you, but are willing to stay at the table. We are 95 days out on the MAGA Exit Countdown. 95 days. Luther nailed 95 questions to a door. The Salon spent 95 Tuesdays workshopping the answers. We're doing both. Go to betrayedtrump.org. Read our 95 questions, then host your own salon. One person, one Tuesday. Start there. betrayedtrump.org. Join the MAGA Exit Countdown here. Smart decisions start now.